They'll remind you of your worst mistakes, not to understand you, but to chain you to who you used to be. What if the very past they used to shame you could become your calmest weapon? Because the Stoic truth is this: your past doesn't define you. How you face it does. Now imagine this. You're finally at peace. You've let go of the pain, the failures, the parts of your life you'd rather never revisit. You've healed, or at least you thought you had. Then suddenly, someone, maybe a person you once trusted, once loved, maybe even someone who knew every secret you ever had, reaches into that past and pulls it out like a knife. They twist it slowly, watching your reaction as if your old wounds were entertainment. And with a half-smirk, half-pitying tone, they say, "Remember that? That's who you really are." Your chest tightens. Not because the past has returned, but because you realize, imbato, they're using it against you. The betrayal cuts deeper this time, not through events, but through memory. And what do most of us do? We flinch, we defend, we rush to explain ourselves. "I've changed," we say. "I'm not that person anymore." But the harder we try to prove it, the more power we hand over. Our emotions become their weapon. A Stoic doesn't do that, because the Stoic knows the one who stays calm owns the moment. And today I'll show you 3 Stoic responses to use when someone brings up your past to hurt you. 3 simple phrases, spoken not in anger, but in quiet strength. First response: yes, that happened. The ego's first instinct is denial. We want to erase, to forget, to hide the version of ourselves that stumbled. But in Stoic philosophy, acceptance is liberation. So when someone says, "You failed at that company," or "You were betrayed because of how you acted," you don't justify. You don't explain. You meet their gaze and say calmly, "Yes, that happened." No excuses. No guilt. No shame. Why is that sentence so powerful? Because it takes away the only thing they truly want, your reaction. People who weaponize your past aren't seeking truth. They're seeking control. They want to see you squirm, to shrink, to relive the pain. But when you face it without fear, their grip weakens. Their blade dulls. Imagine this. An old friend sneers, "You got fired years ago, remember?" And you reply, "Yes, and I learned a valuable lesson from it." Just like that, you disarm them. Because once you are no longer ashamed of who you were, no one can use it against who you've become. As Seneca wrote, "There is nothing more noble than standing before your own faults and saying, 'Yes, I did that, and I learned from it.'" When you accept your past, you take back its meaning. You reclaim authorship of your story, instead of letting someone else narrate it for you. Second response: I've learned from it. That's the moment your past transforms from a wound into wisdom. It turns your mistakes into lessons, your pain into progress, because those who try to use your past against you only see the person you used to be, but they have no idea who you've become. You've already learned. The Stoic doesn't deny the past. He transforms it. And that transformation is where true strength is born. You become sharper with every break, every crack, every wound, every scar. They aren't signs of weakness. They're where the light finds you, where wisdom seeps in. Think of Nelson Mandela, 27 long years in a prison cell, a past that could have crushed any man's spirit. Yet when he walked free, he said, "I do not hate them. I learned that true freedom begins within." His pain didn't destroy him. It shaped him. It carved out the space where compassion could grow. So when someone says, "You failed in your marriage, how can you speak about love?" you smile gently and answer, "Because I've been broken. And through that, I learned what love isn't, and what it truly is." That's not reaction. That's wisdom. You're not defending yourself. You're redefining yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, Every obstacle is an opportunity to practice virtue. And he was right. So when someone tries to stain your name with your past, use that very past to show your strength. That's the quiet art of transformation, turning pain into wisdom, turning scars into symbols of inner maturity. Third response, why are you bringing this up now? This one question can silence even the most manipulative person. You don't raise your voice. You don't mock. You simply ask, with genuine curiosity. Because that calmness, that composure is something they cannot stand. When you ask why, you shift the entire dynamic. Suddenly, you're no longer the one being attacked. You've become the observer. The calm mirror they didn't expect to face. They wanted control over your emotions. But now, they're the ones exposed. You've held up a mirror and forced them to see their own motives, their own insecurities, the shadow they've been hiding behind. If their intentions were sincere, your question makes them pause, maybe even feel ashamed. But if they came to wound you, they crumble under the weight of their own manipulation. Epictetus once said, "The one who harms others is the one already in pain." They bring up your past because they cannot face their own present. So remember, when you calmly ask, "Why are you bringing this up now?" You've already taken back control. You've turned the spotlight onto them. That's the moment the balance of power flips. Quietly, effortlessly, without a single shout. Your composure becomes your armor. Your silence, a wall of steel. Part 4. The power of silence and self-control. The Stoic understands something the modern world has forgotten. Silence is not weakness. It's the highest form of power. When someone tries to provoke your emotions, every impulsive reaction becomes a gift you hand over to them. Seneca said it perfectly. The one who angers you conquers you. You might lose the argument, but you win your composure. You might not strike back, but you keep your peace. And in a world where everyone is shouting, explaining, proving, the one who stays silent holds the true control. Someone once told me, "You never react. That makes people afraid of you." I smiled and said, "I don't want them to fear me. I just want peace within myself. Because once you understand that, you see clearly. No one can drag you into the mud unless you step down willingly." Some people say, "But I'm afraid others will think wrong of me." And I ask, if they do, does that change who you truly are? Epictetus once said, "If someone calls you a donkey, do you check a mirror?" Of course not. Because you already know who you are. That's true freedom. To know yourself so well that you no longer need anyone's approval. So if they bring up your mistakes, smile. If they twist your past, stay silent. If they crave a reaction, let them see your calm. You owe no explanation for the chapters you've already healed from. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, when someone acts wrongly, it is because they do not know what is right. Teach them through your behavior, not your words. That is Stoic mastery, not through dominance, but through peace. And sometimes, the most powerful response isn't a word. It's maturity itself. When they try to define you by your past, let your present speak for you. Let your peace reflect who they truly are. Because here's the truth. Every one of us carries older versions of ourselves. Versions we're not proud of. Versions we've outgrown. But without them, we wouldn't be who we are today. Once you were naive. You were lost. You were flawed. But those chapters taught you courage. The kind that only pain can teach. They taught you patience, the kind that only time can carve. And they taught you the art of rising, again and again, even when everything in you wanted to stay down. A man who once battled addiction can now lead others toward freedom. A woman who once failed in business can now mentor hundreds toward success. Someone who was once betrayed can now embody forgiveness itself. That's how you turn darkness into light. That's how pain becomes purpose. The Stoic doesn't erase the past. He transforms it until every wound becomes wisdom. Conclusion. The Stoic way to end the story. People will always try to use your past to pull you down, not because you're weak, but because your growth reminds them of what they could have become. When you rise, you become a mirror, and not everyone is ready to face their reflection. They don't attack because you're broken, they attack because you've healed. Your peace threatens their chaos. So remember these 3 Stoic truths. First, acknowledge your past without shame. Second, turn every mistake into a lesson, not a life sentence. Third, when provoked, don't react. Ask questions. Let them see themselves reflected in your calm. That's how a Stoic wins. Not through shouting, not through defense, but through dignity. You don't need to fight to prove you've changed. Those who truly see you don't need an explanation. And those who refuse to see you, no explanation will ever be enough. One day, someone will bring up your past again, and you'll smile, not out of pride, not out of pain, but from peace. Because you'll know, I am not what happened to me. I am how I chose to rise from it. That is true freedom. Not in forgetting your past, but in being at peace even when you remember it. Your past doesn't define you. How you face it does. So, if someone tries to drag you back into an old chapter, smile and say, "Thank you. But I've already finished that part of the story." Then walk away, calm, steady, untouchable, like a true Stoic. If this message speaks to you, share it. Let it reach someone still trapped in their past. And if you're walking your own Stoic path, hit subscribe. Join this community of calm minds and unbreakable spirits. Drop this in the comments as your daily reminder. I've closed that chapter. My story moves forward.